Hi there, this is Billy Tarasio with the Modern Divorce Podcast with a special episode today. I am really excited. This is going to be a very different type of episode. And today I'm talking to Donna Phillips, who is local here in Gilbert, right?
Yes, I actually am. My office is in Gilbert.
Fantastic. And Donna is the owner and founder of College Planners. We're going to talk about getting your kids into college, especially when you're divorced. And what is financial aid? What do you do for your parents' income when you've got divorced parents and maybe somebody isn't cooperating? So, this is how Donna and I met. It was on this fascinating thread on Facebook. And I was so excited to have her on the show. So, Donna, before we get into the meat and potatoes, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into this?
Yes, so as we were discussing, I kind of got into this organically. I have two boys. I was homeschooling. And when it came time to apply for college, as being a very involved parent, I just went through the process with them, was very successful with my first son. He got a full academic scholarship plus a stipend to go to college. So they were paying him to come. And we just kind of organically volunteering in the community was something that we did anyway. And since I was a scrapbooker, I had photos, documentation. So I learned from that how important that was. And my second son, 6 years later, we did the same thing. And he also got a full academic ride plus a stipend to go to college. So with that, friends and family and church members just started coming to my door, please take my child too. And I started out doing this for free for friends and family. And eventually, with a little bit of nudging from my friends at church, I stepped back, I studied the business, I got into the industry, and I started my own business, got my LLC, and I've been doing it now for 6 years with a lot of success with a lot of kids going to schools all over the country.
So, I don't know anything about the industry. I have four kids. I'm very interested. Tell me about the services that your company provides.
So what I specifically do, since I'm a mom, is I take the kids all the way from basically eighth grade through their first, and I have some second and third year college students that still text me and ask for information and help. And so what that entails is before they get to high school, we want to get them in the mindset of really taking school seriously. Because once ninth grade starts, most people know this, once ninth grade starts, that's where the grades start to count. And all that goes into how well you're received at the college. So we start getting them in that mindset in sixth, seventh, eighth grade of really getting the best grades that they can. And then as parents, our job is to make sure that they're taking the appropriate classes for them. Let me break that down. So, of course, high schools love for the kids to take AP and honors courses. It looks good on their transcript. It helps them to maintain number one, achieving school, A plus school, and that's great and fabulous. It stretches the kids' minds and all of that. However,
Mm.
my job as a college planner is to also help the parents with their finances. When we're talking about going to school at ASU, they don't care about AP and honors.
Mm.
Honestly, what they care about is the GPA, which is the unweighted GPA. That's a whole nother thing, but I'll just, in a nutshell, your weighted GPA is when you take AP and honors classes. It gives you more points. Your unweighted is just your straight GPA with your regular classes based on a 4.0 top schedule. That's all ASU cares about. They don't care about the weighted points. They're going to ask you, what is your unweighted GPA? If you have a 3.5, you're going to get $5,000.
Okay.
Tuition is 10,000. So that's half. 3.5 is a B plus
Mhm.
average.
Mhm.
So with that being said, if your child is doing well in English and math and not so well in science, they put them in honors English and math and honors science. The
Mm.
science grade drops and now their GPA drops.
Mhm. Mhm.
Not a good look. We don't
Mhm.
want that because that translates into dollars and cents.
Mhm.
So anyway, that's what I do. I help you monitor as they go. And then as they get into their junior year, we start preparing for their personal statement, which is a huge essay, their test scores, ACT, SAT, AP, and in the last couple of years, the colleges have been vacillating between, yes, we want ACT. No, we don't. Wait, we're not going to have it because of COVID. But if you have it, it's going to give you extra points. Nothing is ever clear.
Okay.
I read a quote once that said, the Byzantine process of college applications. That is so true. Quick example, the UC system last year, we're not going to require ACT and SAT tests. We still pushed our students, take it anyway, even though it got canceled over and over and over. And guess what? They're getting in because they had ACT scores and SAT scores and a good GPA and portfolio. But you just really have to be involved in every detail of the process. And most people don't have the time to do the research continually to do this. And that's where I come in.
Okay. Are you helping people select the right college for them?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And what do you do? What do you do if you have kids who have bad grades?
So, there's not bad grades. It all depends on the motivation of the child. So what we say is that's not your best effort. So if it's not their best effort, we try to motivate them. Now, and I've been speaking to kids as young as fifth and sixth grade, especially with COVID. And really, it's the bottom line. The goal maybe of the high school is to get them through high school. Our goal as parents is to get them gainfully and successfully employed.
Yes, it
So
is.
college is not even the goal, right?
Right, right.
So
It's independence.
it's independence. And so even though all these people in the educational system, God bless them, we love them, thank you for what they're doing, they don't always have the end goal in mind. We do. So with that being said, we talk to the students and say, what is it you want to do with your life? How do you want to live your life? Do you want to live in an apartment all your life? Do you want to own a home? Do you want to own your own car? Where do you want to live? And you just start getting real with them and breaking down the cost of what it costs to live. $15 an hour sounds fabulous when you are a ninth or 10th grader in high school, even as a senior. But guess what? 4 years from now, when your peers graduate from college, they're going to be making $25 and $30 an hour. And that's what it's going to take to buy a house and have a car, and all those things. So if you just start writing out the budget, if that doesn't motivate them, then you need to take another approach. And we
Okay.
do talk to them about vocational type schools and technical schools, things that are 18 months as opposed to 4 years, or the trades. There's a lacking in the trades. Lots of trades people say to me, why do you send them all to college? I need auto mechanics. I need plumbers. I need, all these union workers. And they're great jobs. It just depends what the child is focused on.
Okay. What does how do people work with you? Do you charge by the hour? What does your engagement look like?
So usually what I like to do is I like to do a package because I don't like to do bits and pieces. I want to see them all the way through. Now, that's not to say I won't. I have a lot of people that come in just for test prep, and we get the test prep going. We've established a relationship, and they might come back a year later and say, hey, I am just over this. Can you step in now and help? So I can do hourly, but I prefer to do a full package. And when I say a full package, people don't understand until they start working with me. But any question that comes up, I will not nickel and dime you. Once you've paid the full amount, I have people that are on 4-year plans with me, and then the 5th year their child is in college, they're still contacting me for help with scholarships or essays or papers or class choices. I really am in it for the students and their parents, but I really want to see them succeed.
You're helping plan this whole process, the applications, assisting with the applications, selecting the school, helping with the deadlines, managing the process of getting into college. Now, financial aid is a massive part of that. And that's what set off, and really inspired this conversation was the issue of financial aid for divorced parents. So tell me, why do parents' income even matter, and where does that come into play?
So the overall, the umbrella for financial aid is the FAFSA, which is the free application for student aid. That is provided through the federal government. So any student going to college is strongly encouraged to fill out the FAFSA. And it's a time-sensitive document. You fill it out, it goes to the college. First, the government makes an assessment of whether or not you're going to get like the Pell Grant and grants like that. If you qualify for Pell Grant, then the college puts you into a category where you qualify for financial aid, and they will give you what's called need-based aid. And that's one part of it. The other part of it is, let's say you don't qualify for the Pell Grant, which, by the way, is your family has to be making about 55 to 60,000 a year for a family of 4. So it's pretty low. The threshold is pretty low
Mhm.
for the Pell Grant. But if you make more than that, you can still get need-based aid. It'll just come through the college.
Mm.
The first step is you've got to get that FAFSA filled out. Now, as a little side note, some of the top tier colleges like Harvard, Yale, UC, USC, UC San Francisco, they require what's called a CSS profile, which is a different, more extensive, more invasive financial aid application through the college board. So it's not
Mm,
through the government, it's through the college board,
mhm,
private entity.
mhm.
Um, so with the FAFSA, once the government makes that decision, it goes to the college, and then the college decides whether they're going to give you any extra. And then on top of that, any private scholarships you apply for most likely want to see that FAFSA. They want to know your financial background and your parents' financial background.
Okay, is this absolutely required? Like, what if a child is living on their own or doing it on their own and they don't have their parents helping them? Are they still required to put down their parents' income?
And this is a sticking point for a lot of people. Let's be really clear. Unless you are an emancipated minor, which means legally emancipated from your parents, or your parents are deceased and you are a ward of the court, or if you are a foster child, a legal foster child, then yes, you can apply as an independent. If your parents are alive and they've just kicked you out, or you have issues with them, or they said, I'm not paying for college, it doesn't matter. You still have to put that information down. Now, there are few instances, but I really want people to understand the FAFSA is extremely strict about this. They are not lenient at all. Unless you can prove one of those instances, you have to put your parents' income until you're 26.
Oh my gosh. 26. Okay. Now, if your parents are divorced, do you have to put your biological parents? Can you choose like your stepmom and your dad? Can you choose one side? How does that work?
Okay, so it's pretty straightforward for the FAFSA. CSS is different. The FAFSA, the great thing is that you put down your custodial parent. Now, that's not a legal term, so that's great. It's basically who you live with more for the whole year, even one day more. So here's the strategy, of course. If mom makes considerably less money, then you're going to have mom be the custodial parent. However, if mom makes less money, but she remarried and her new husband, Bob, makes considerable money, then you might spend one more day at dad's house and have dad be the custodial parent. So it's by your word which is your custodial parent. And of course, you want to, be honest about it and say where you stay more, but you might just adjust your living. You might live with dad 1 week more. Now, the caveat is this. If you live with mom and she makes considerably less money, but dad pays a ton of child support,
Uh-huh.
you've got to weigh that out. And there is a way to do that. There is a calculator on the FAFSA website, and it's the EFC, which stands for Expected Family Contribution
Mm-hmm.
calculator. And so you
Mm-hmm.
can plug in all the numbers before the time of the application. So you can plug it in your sophomore year. If your
Mm-hmm.
parents are wise and they're already divorced, they're going to plug it in the freshman year and say, okay, for the next 3 years, we need to agree that you're going to pay less child support. I mean, they got to work this out, right? This is all for this goal, so that she gets this much college aid, you know? Yeah.
Wow.
So it can be, it's going to be stressful for the parents, but it's about the end goal.
Okay, so I have some questions.
Mhm.
We're not talking about who was the custodial parent at the time that this is a young adult. We're talking about when they were in high school. Who was the custodial parent?
Every year you have to fill it out.
Every year. Okay.
Mhm.
So what okay. And when they're living on their own or in a dorm, then what?
Then it's going to be whoever, again, you're saying is providing most of your financial support, which is still who do you go home to on spring break? Where do you go at Christmas? Which is who do you consider your custodial parent? It doesn't have to do with who claims you on your taxes.
Okay.
It's who do you consider where you live?
Okay. And it's also the combined household income is what I'm hearing. So if either of your parents are remarried, you're looking at the joint combined income of both.
Absolutely. You have to include that step parent's income if they remarry.
Okay.
And so here's another important point that you may not have thought to ask. What if you're not divorced but separated?
Sure.
It's the same.
Oh.
If your parents are separated, doesn't have to be legally separated with a legal document. If you go on the FAFSA website, this is all there in writing. I'm not making it up. If they're separated, meaning they don't live in the same home,
Hmm.
then whoever is your custodial parent, that's who you put on the FAFSA.
And
The
and the
CSS is different though.
and the FAFSA is then not considering the other parent. You do not have to put it down. So, like, one of
Nope,
the comments I saw was, "Well, what if I can't find, my ex-husband to put the income information down? You don't need it." Is that what
you
you're
don't
saying?
need it. You
Okay.
don't need it. No. And so you want to make sure that your tax documents, of course, support what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
If you're still filing a joint tax return is when you live together,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you live separately, you shouldn't have a joint tax return, and
Mm-hmm.
that is evidence enough.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Um, okay, we already talked about one limit, which is about $60,000 for a family of four. So, if you're over that limit, but under, what's the next threshold? Like, at what point does this not matter? At what income level are you too high to be asking for merit-based financial aid?
So for merit-based, which is for what you've done in school, there is no financial limit. But for need-based aid, so need-based aid is what comes from the federal government. The federal government does not give merit aid. Merit aid comes from whichever college you go to or private scholarships. But for need-based aid, I mean, I guess if you had a family of 15, it could go up, proportionally. But basically for the Pell Grant, it's right around 50 to 60,000. It doesn't go up much higher than that.
Okay, so if you make more than that, let's say you have a parent that makes $100,000 a year, there's really no reason to apply for financial aid. Is that what I'm
No,
hearing?
that's not true. You absolutely need to apply because it varies per college. So let me say this. You apply for financial aid through the federal government,
Mhm.
and they say your expected family contribution, EFC, that's a number you're going to get, is $200,000. Whatever they say that you're responsible to pay for all, but we're not giving you anything. Then it goes to the college, and the college says to you, well, your FAFSA says you're not entitled to anything, so we're not giving anything to you. Not the end of the game. You go on and you look at your financials, and everybody has extenuating circumstances. We're not going to even talk about COVID. We're just going to talk about normal. So normally you might have expensive medical bills. You might have your parents living with you. You could have a sister-in-law as a parent that you're supporting. You could have grandchildren you're supporting. You could have multiple properties that are the tenants are terrible and you're responsible. So whatever your accurate financial picture is, not what's on your tax return. Because what you have to send into the federal government looks one way, but how you live day to day is different. That's when you want to go to whatever college it is and you want to get an appeal form and fill it out with every detail that you have. And so that's where you might want to get, like if you have somebody who does your taxes or a financial advisor, it would be well worth your while to get them to help you fill out that appeal form. I have done it with several of my clients and they have had their financial aid adjusted. So if you've got a real clear cut case of extenuating medical bills or other people living in your home that maybe on your tax return you can't claim them as a dependent, but they are definitely in your home and you're paying for it, those are pretty clear cut. You fill out the appeal form and then the college will adjust and they will give you the money that the federal government would not have given you.
Okay. All right, fantastic. Um, what else? I'm sure there's a ton I'm not asking.
Yes, and so there's a whole other side to financial aid, which is merit scholarships. And they're not all for grades. There are huge scholarships. As a matter of fact, let me just say this. If you have a perfect 4.0, then you're going to qualify for full tuition at ASU, at GCU, U of A, NAU. You're going to get full tuition, which is around 10 to 12,000, depending which school it is, 4.0 GPA. If you've done substantial community service, then there are private scholarships that you can apply for that can kick in thousands to cover your room and board, cover your books. And so having, I don't want to say just a 4.0, but You need to have breadth in your portfolio. So if you've worked a job, that counts. If you play sports, clubs, community volunteering, community service, any of that really, really counts. If you've got a 4.0, then you are open to so many scholarships, but you will eliminate yourself if you don't do some kind of community service, and even beyond that, a passion project. That
Mhm.
is what has come up in the last probably, I would say, 5 or 6 years, a passion project. They wanna see kids that are motivated to be a part of their community.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. All right. So we should be really encouraging our kids to figure that out, find that passion. Now, if you've got kids that are floundering, is this where you come in and you talk to them?
Floundering in what respect? Yes, the answer is yes. I come in and talk to them, but, if they're floundering with, maybe they're not feeling doing community service or something. Again, what is your end goal? Community service is what kicks you over the top to where they pay you to come to school because you're so desirable to that school that they
Mhm.
want you there. So they're going to give you what's called a stipend to
Mhm.
be in their program.
Mhm.
And it's not something that's generally advertised on the websites. It
Mhm.
generally happens after you've gotten the full scholarship with room and board and everything, and then the different colleges within the university. So, for example, my youngest son was going pre-med, but he was also a writer. And so the communications department said, well, if you come over here, we're going to give you a stipend of $800 a semester
Ooh,
to come here. And so he said, okay, because pre-med, contrary to what people think, you don't have to major in biology, the sciences, or anything. You can major in whatever. And then as long as you're taking science courses, then you're on track for pre-med. So
sure. Okay. Let's talk about in-state versus out of state.
yes. So if financial aid, or let's just say the finances are super critical, then you want to start managing your child's expectations. You really want to take them boots on the ground to ASU, U of A, whichever one you're comfortable with, and get them familiar. Our colleges in Arizona are amazing. ASU is highly ranked throughout the world. They have students coming from all around the world to come into their programs. They rank #1 in innovation for the last, I want to say, 6 years that I've been doing this, ahead of MIT, Stanford, Yale, Harvard, UC Berkeley. #1 in innovation. What is innovation? Cutting edge, right? Science, DNA. Our federal police system here in Arizona, when they have DNAs, things come up, they go to ASU.
Mm.
ASU owns the local PBS station. So we're talking about communications, broadcast journalism, sports broadcasters. So ASU is a dynamic school. Even to go into their labs and their medical, they have the eye scanner. So you put your face there and it scans your eye, right? They're like
Wow.
super. Yeah, ASU is very cool. And what's great about it is they have a policy of inclusivity, meaning that they don't want to turn away Arizona students and say, no, you can't come here. They're going to bend over backwards to get you in there. You may not get full scholarships, but you can go to ASU if you want to go to ASU.
Okay.
Um, so, with that being said, their tuition is $10,000.
Mhm.
$10,000 a year. That
Mhm.
is very, very reasonable for a top school like that. Very reasonable. And then they have all kinds of programs to help you whittle that down. If
Mhm.
you apply early, if you accept their offer early, you can take another 1,000 off.
Mhm.
If you go to certain high schools around here, you can take another 1,000 off.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's a really good program. And as far as saving you money in state, you can't beat that tuition rate, plus the fact that they give out so many different minor scholarships to kind of help you along the way. It really is one of the best resources as far as cost and what you're going to get out of the school.
That's fantastic. I didn't know just how competitive it was, just what a great deal it was, and $10,000 a year is so reasonable. The thing that I hear most parents talk about is it's just too big for my child. My child needs a smaller school. What are your thoughts on that?
So that's a great question too, because ASU has 3 campuses. And so they have the Tempe campus, which is huge. That's where most students go. Some of the students who are a little more focused, they know exactly what they want to do. They go to the downtown campus. The downtown campus, which this is amazing, just signed a couple of deals with Mayo for one. So now they're having a lot of interaction with the Mayo Clinic for their physician's assistants and their nursing programs. So amazing. Even if you go to physician assistant school at U of A and NAU, you come back to downtown to do your PA. So that's amazing. And they just signed, I think they're building a film studio in Mesa.
Oh, how fun.
So yes, so they're working closely with Hollywood to start doing movies here. So that's amazing for film students. Um, but anyway, so they have the downtown campus, which is considerably smaller. And then if you really want that small, technical, private feel, the East Valley campus, very small, very mature. It doesn't have, all the football games and all that kind of stuff going on. You can catch a bus from there that ASU provides, go to the main campus, take classes there, participate in clubs and all that. But if you want your main studies to be in a very small, intimate campus, East Valley is really good for that.
Nice. This has been fantastic. I know I want to talk to you about my kids. I know a lot of parents are going to want to talk to you about their kids. And for those of you who aren't on video, this will be a podcast. And so some people won't have the benefit of your fantastic background there. But I just want to let people know, if you have questions for Donna or you want to work with Donna, you can find her at www.collegeplanners.net. And I can't see your whole email. Will you read your email for me?
Yes, it's Donna@collegeplanners.net.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you.